Hello and Hello and good afternoon to everyone that is currently tuned in live with us on another episode of Phillip Trading Podcast. I'm your host for today and my name is Trent. So with me here today is our honored guest, David Ng, a proprietary trader from Iceberg X Sdn Bhd. How are you today, David?
Hey, hi Trent. It's good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Great, great to hear that too. Very excited to have you back on this podcast. Okay, so for today's
thank you very much.
podcast, we'll be sharing a preview on our upcoming webinar on this Thursday, 29 April from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So the title of the webinar is Commodities Outlook 2021, Will the Supercycle Last? Okay, so to our audience out there who are currently trading commodities futures such as grains and energy futures, do not miss out this webinar and quickly register for the webinar at Phillip Futures website. Once again, I would like the help of our beloved audience today to share this video to all your friends. The more people that are watching this video, the more we are motivated to deliver greater content to all of you. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed speaker for the upcoming webinar to all our audiences. So David Ng is actually a proprietary trader with Iceberg X Sdn Bhd and has done extensive research and is well-versed in the commodity and index markets. He currently trades the Malaysian index and other regional markets as well. Previously, David was the derivative specialist with Phillip Futures Sdn Bhd. In that role, he provided regular comments on the market to the local media like The Star, Business Times, and The Age. Now, let me pass the screen to our speaker, David, to give a preview on the upcoming webinar and why you should not miss out this informative session. Pass on to you, David.
Yes, thank you, Trent. Just let me get it started.
Yep, we can share screen now.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Still not yet.
Okay. I think that should be it.
Yep. Showing it now.
Okay, just let me make it full screen. Okay, yeah, let's get on to the preview. Well, I think firstly, I'd just like to thank Phillip Futures together with CME for organizing this webinar, which is happening this coming Thursday. So I really hope that your audience will get the chance to actually look at some of the key topics whenever you're talking about commodities. And I think just to look at this channel, if you have been trading commodities for quite some time, I mean, this year, 2021 has been a very fantastic year in terms of price rally. So if you're trading CPO market, you have seen how CPO has actually rallied from 3,500 ringgit to probably a couple of weeks ago. And right now, probably you're seeing prices above 4,000. So it's indeed a tremendous rally. And besides CPO, if you look at soybean oil, I think soybean oil is actually trading about 50 cents late last week. And now we are actually looking at about 60 cents and above. So we have seen a lot of rallies across a lot of major commodity asset classes, be it in crude oil, be it in grains, and be it in especially even in precious metal space. If you look at palladium, platinum, which is riding on the theme of renewable energy. So commodity as a whole, I think we've seen a lot of strengths. We have seen a lot of rallies across many segments. And I believe that this is an opportunity. It's a great time for you to be in this market. Just that you have to be very cautious, man, because as with any other sharp rally, that always bound to have a bit of a retracement or a bit of a correction in view. So I think with that, as a trader, you just have to be very mindful when those periods comes. But you look at the overall longer term trend, I think commodity still has a lot of room to grow. So what I have here is just to show you the chart on the commodity index. So as the title says, with a commodity super cycle and now the definition of a cycle is pretty lengthy. I think I'm going to elaborate that in my upcoming webinar. Do stay tuned for that. But I think in short, if you see a cycle, it usually lasts between 5 or even 10 years or even more than a decade. So already they were saying it's only probably be maturing about a year and a year and a half. So whether that will continue is still likely to be seen. But indeed, we are seeing almost like a V-shaped recovery in terms of commodity prices. And it's crucial to watch how the next couple of months is going to play out. So if you just look at the current pace across major commodities, we are seeing a lot of strength, and I think that will likely to continue. Obviously, the recovery in commodities actually really aligned with the recovery in the global economy. So obviously, last year we have the pandemic. First half of last year was terrible. We have seen a lot of major lockdowns in a lot of major countries around the world. So this time around, second half, we start to see a bit of recovery, and 2021, as we enter 2021, we start to see a tremendous recovery across a lot of major economies. And that actually led to higher demand for commodities. And in that sense, China being a very large economy consumption as well as producer, and in that sense, I think they demand a lot of commodities as part of a way to regenerate their growth. And we start to see that those demand will continue to sustain and be very resilient, and that will bring us at least towards the end of 2021. So if you just look at IMF predictions, I think it looks like the global economy is starting to recover. And there's a lot of other couple factors that's actually trying to contribute to why the recent price rally in commodities. And recovery of the global economy is just part of it. And in upcoming webinar, I'll be discussing in other details what are the other major factors that actually contribute to the rise in commodity prices. But keep in mind, I think, as if you look at the global recovery, we are definitely in a global recovery. We have seen major economies starting to pick up. And I think that led a lot of rally in some of the major commodity baskets. Now, obviously, I think it's been a buzzword around for quite some time, especially in the past couple of weeks, because we have seen tremendous rally, whether it's in the grains market or whether it's in the energy space. So inflation has been, the question of inflation has been actually been popping up for quite some time, and it's actually resurfaced again. So given that the monetary action and the fiscal policy has been done by so many other countries trying to pop up the post-pandemic recovery, obviously that's going to lead into inflation. So if you look at grain prices, we have seen like corn at 10 years high prices, wheat at 8 years high prices, even CPO, if you look at the spot market, is actually at all-time high. So with this kind of, as we enter into a space where you start to see prices at reaching years high, you definitely see inflation starts to creep up. Now the concern is that will inflation be rising faster than what we anticipate or expected? I think right now, if you look at some of the key figures coming from whether it's from US or even from Europe, those inflation numbers are still within what they have expected. 2 to 2.5% is what Federal Reserve expect US inflation is going to be for this year. And I think that's anything above is not going to be a cause of concern, because as they mentioned, when inflation rises too fast, they will step in. But right now, I think inflation is still moderate. And we always believe that, we have seen how the world has evolved post the financial crisis back in 2008 through monetary policy. And back then, I think the main concern was that, with such amount of money that's being pumped into the system, that will create a lot of inflation. But we don't see that as of till now. So I think the inflation concern is going to be lingering around, but it's not going to be a major factor despite we are seeing increasing in prices. So I think in that webinar alone, I'll be touching on a few key aspects besides inflation that we should be mindful of, especially in terms of the commodities prices. What could really derail those prices from going down south? So obviously inflation is sort of like a short-term concern, but it's not going to have a major or mid to longer term impact. So I think that's something for us to keep in mind. And I'll be sharing more towards, in the webinar itself. So I think this is a chart which I know if you're watching the market, I think lumber has been a very interesting commodity, has been reaching like almost very high prices for the past couple of months, and indeed it's actually trying to paint higher and higher. So this goes to show that the economy fuel demand is actually what driving the recovery in terms of commodity prices. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, can this recovery or can this demand sustain towards the medium to longer term picture? Which we are going to be really starting to give a lot of clarification on where you can see that in coming weeks or months. So in that webinar, I'll be touching a lot on what are the aspects in terms of demand that we should see that likely can we see sustaining the price picture going forward. Now, grain prices has been, you look at corn, you look at wheat, you look at soybean, those prices are actually at, some of them are even 10 years high, especially corn. So if you just look at, if a trader, you look at some of the CFTC numbers, which tells you, whether they are net long or net short positions, you look at those managed positions, they are naturally net long, and those positions are actually increasing, which means that the market is actually very bullish in terms of corn. And if you just look at some of the fundamental numbers, corn is actually painting quite a very good, decent picture. It's trying to tell you that the demand is still there. Supply doesn't seem to be in line with the demand. So therefore, I think prices will have to rise. And that's what we are seeing right now. So I'm just going to share also on that webinar, how are we going to look at CFTC numbers, those net managed positions, how are we going to interpret that, and how are we going to use that as a way of trading. So, I mean, do watch out. If you're wanting to start trading in this space, looking at CFTC numbers in terms of managed positions could be a very likely tool that you need to be familiar with in order for you to gauge where the market sentiment is. Okay, so just to give a very brief summary of what I'm going to talk about in the upcoming webinar, I think I'm just going to touch about the commodity supercycle, which is a very buzzword, has been going around town for quite some time. And I think the key question is whether this supercycle can it still persist. In fact, are we in a commodity supercycle to start off with? And obviously, I'm going to touch a bit on grains, especially corn, soybean, because it relates to the rally that we're seeing. And grains, if you're trading grains, I think you probably have seen the trend has been very bullish. Are we going to head into correction very soon? I'll probably will address certain points on that. And I will also touch a bit on crude oil market, because crude oil has been, if you look at where prices back last year and compared to this year, last year you are seeing negative prices. So this year, we are seeing pre-COVID levels in terms of energy prices. So obviously there's risk to this recovery, and I will just share on what are the risks that's going to impact the market. Last but not least, I'm just going to share a little bit on technical analysis by using Heiken Ashi as part of the candlesticks tools, and also looking at trend lines like moving averages as a way for you to create simple setups for you to trade the market. So these are all the things I'm going to cover. And if you are in the commodity space, if you're trading in the market, do tune in, because I think it's going to be a very, hopefully it's a very insightful and exciting webinar for you.
Okay, thank you, David, for the wonderful preview. And once again, to our audience out there, please tune in to the exciting webinar on this Thursday, 29 April from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, and to our audience who are interested or currently trading the US commodities or US indices futures, Phillip Futures actually is currently having a promotion of which you can win cash reward of up to 1,000 ringgit per month. For more details, you can drop us a message on Facebook and our representative will get back to you. Alternatively, you can visit our website, and under the promotions tab, you can find more info on the promotion. Lastly, before we end the podcast for today, to our audience, if you have any question or any topics you want us to discuss next week, you can message us in the comment box below. Thank you for listening to our podcast, and happy trading for the week. Thank you for your time too, David.
Thank you. Hope to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.